Good afternoon. My name is Sarah Hurley, and I'm the moderator for today's presentation, Opiates, Adolescents, and Relationship Building. I want to welcome everyone to the Opiates and Other Drugs virtual series provided by St. Clair County Community Mental Health in partnership with the Community Services Coordinating Body. This webinar series is made possible by a grant award from SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. A few things to note as we get started. Today's session is being recorded. Please feel free to use the chat box to ask questions during the presentation. If time allows, we'll do our best to answer questions both during and at the end of the presentation. Continuing education credits are offered today for anyone who signed up for these during registration. Please make sure that when you signed into Zoom today, you used your full first and last name. This is how we're able to assign those credits to you. This series will have an in code and an out code that participants will need to enter in a quiz in order to receive this continuing ed credits. Today's in code is youth, Y-O-U-T-H. Our presenter today is Melissa Hunt. Melissa is a licensed master of social work with 20 years of experience working with youth diagnosed with mental health disorder, youth on probation, and youth with substance use disorder. Melissa is certified in A-CRA, Adolescent Community Reinforcement Approach, Adult and Youth Mental Health First Aid Instructor, Trauma-Informed Parent Training, and Trauma-Focused CBT. Melissa is currently a clinical supervisor for Children's Services right here at St. Clair County Community Mental Health. With that, I'll turn it over to Melissa.
Thank you, Sarah. I hope everyone's having a good afternoon. So everyone should have received the opioid quiz prior to attending this, and we will talk about the answers at the end. And if you'd like to, you can go ahead and change your answers. You can fix them if you find something new, and we will go from there. But one of the things I wanted to let you know is I like to do a lot of interactive stuff. So I'm going to be using the chat box as soon as they get that up and running. And I will ask you questions and you can throw your answers in the chat room. So here we go. So today I want to start with talking about prescription opioids in adolescents, because this is kind of where this starts. And so these prescription opioids can be prescribed by doctors to treat moderate, severe pain, but they also have risk. And some of the risk is that they're extremely addictive and they're quickly addictive. So we want to make sure that we're, staying away from those for our teens when we're trying to treat pain. One of the websites I really like to use when working with youth and substances it's called a drugfreeworld.org. And that is in my references. And so the next thing that I wanted to talk about then is heroin. A lot of times for teenagers, what happens is they move from starting with prescription drugs into heroin. Heroin is the illegal opioid, and it has increased among men and women in all income levels. Not only people using heroin, but they're using multiple substances when they use heroin. I thought this was an interesting statistic that heroin involved overdose deaths have increased nearly 5 times since 2010, which doesn't sound a whole lot, except for when you see the numbers. It went from 3,036 in 2010 to 14,996 in 2018. However, they did say that the overdose death rate has decreased by 4%. And some of the things that they're saying that is contributing to that decrease is that fewer people are initiating heroin use. People are shifting from a heroin-based market to a fentanyl-based market, and we'll talk about fentanyl in a minute, and increased treatment for people using heroin. So there's more services available for people who are using heroin, and the expansion of naloxone access. So through the health department, they have, the naloxone that you can carry with you and take and help if someone's having an overdose. Any questions on heroin? I know that's just kind of a brief overview of it. Anything that you want to ask about that? I really, really recommend after the seminar going to the drugfreeworld.org to see those videos, because they really are, for youth in particular, a very good series. And they have them on multiple drugs, marijuana, stimulants, basically anything you can think of. But the nice thing about those particular videos is they're done with people who are ranging in their late teens to, most of them look about to be under 30. And so they're, you know, they're relatable for kids, and they're just a nice tool if you're looking for a way to chat about things like that. When you're talking about fentanyl we hear a lot about, mostly because people usually, if they're going to die, there's a lot of fentanyl out there. People often don't know it's mixed with their drugs, so they don't know what they're getting. So it's 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine is. It's often prescribed in the form of a patch or a lozenge. But these are a lot of things that do end up getting, you know, getting misused by our teenagers. The one that gets mixed in with the illegal drug is a synthetic fentanyl. Sorry about that. And the synthetic gets mixed in, and they often don't know that it's there, and that's when we have overdoses. So some quick facts about opioids. So overdoses involving opioids killed nearly 47,000 people in 2018. That's just an amazing number to me. Did anybody else find that kind of shocking when they see that number, the 47,000? Did you think it would be higher, lower? Go ahead and put it in the chat, whether you think it would be higher or lower. Got higher, thought it would be higher, lower. So it looks like most of you are kind of saying that you thought it would be higher. And so, yeah, I did too. I thought it would be higher than that. What I did find in my research was that a lot of times it's not just opioids, there's other things mixed in. And that's why that number, so if it's strictly opioids, it was 47,000, but there are more out there that get mixed with other drugs. Over half of young adults who misuse prescription opioids got them from a friend or a family member. So in the chat, you guys, how do you think that happens, that people get them from a friend or a family member? Like, do you think they're just handing them over? What do you think? Stolen? Left in the bathroom, they steal them, the medicine cabinet, pill parties, old prescriptions. Oh yeah, old prescriptions, that's a good one. Yep, medicine cabinet, easy access, steal them, given to them. Okay, so yeah, those are some really good answers, you guys. Grandparents, I see, because people hand them over, old prescriptions, easy access. That's exactly why, right? Most people are not just handing them over to these kiddos. You know, they're sitting in grandma and grandpa's medicine cabinet. I mean, how many of us like can, you know, say, oh, I have some antibiotics sitting in my medicine cabinet from 2 years ago. And, you know, we know we're not supposed to keep them, but we do, right? We keep them, we set them aside and go, well, just in case. And so a lot of times this is just an easy access for kids. And so one of the things that we really want to promote when we're talking about opioids in the home is making sure those things are locked up. If it's an old prescription, get rid of it. You know, because that's really how they're getting a hold of some of those things. So the next one I found was adolescent athletes in some high injury sports are at a 50% higher risk of misusing prescription painkillers than their peers who do not participate in sports. So why do you think this is? Why do you think that kids who play high injury sports are at a higher risk of misuse? Go ahead and put it in the chat. Injuries, yep. Injuries to keep playing. Yeah, that's a good one, to keep playing. They want to play even though they're hurt. Yeah, work through the pain. Afraid to let coaches and parents down. Injury, inflammation. Great answers, you guys. Yeah, I think, you know, the one I see coming up a lot too is that afraid to tell coaches. They want to keep playing. They're going to play through the pain, you know. And in order to do that, that's what they do is they use the prescription drugs to get through that at the end of the day. You know, day-to-day pain. Yeah, some of those sports are hard on your body. You know, when you think about, you know, football players, you know, they're getting hit by a 300-pound guy every day, you know, at practice and then in games. That's a, you know, it's a lot on your body. And so they really do continue to take them. The culture of high school sports, yeah, sacrifice your body or play through the pain. Yeah, absolutely. Annette, thank you for that. That's a really, really good answer is that playing through the pain. And so we know, yeah, coaches and teams can give them to them. Party culture and sports. Yeah, good answers, you guys. Really and truly, I think a lot of it is that, you know, I have 4 years to play football or I have 4 years to play soccer, or, you know, and they end up, you know, really just going through and keep taking the pills so they can continue to play the sport. All right. Every 11 minutes, someone in America dies of an overdose. I was kind of shocked by that number. So what do you guys think? Shocking or not shocking? You think it should be higher or lower? Not shocking. Yeah. Kim thinks it's lower, not shocking. Seems about right. Not shocking. Okay. Yeah, not shocked. Thought it would be higher. I mean, I kind of wasn't shocked one way or another, but I definitely thanks, Amy. Amy calculated the statistic and it does equal 47,000. Good job. It is sad. Sorry, Pete. Yes, it is sad, the amount of people. But I did like that somebody was calculating the numbers for me out there. 80% of heroin users started with a prescription painkiller, which is why I chose to start the PowerPoint with a prescription painkiller, because I know as a fact that our adolescents, that's usually where they start. You know, they don't start with heroin. They start, you know, with mom and dad's, you know, Tylenol 3, or somebody has some Oxycontin, or somebody has some Vicodin. And that's kind of where that begins. And then it turns into the heroin addiction. National studies show that a teen is more likely to abuse a prescription drug than an illegal street drug. So why do you guys think that is? Why are they more likely to abuse a prescription drug rather than an illegal street drug? What are your thoughts? Easier to get. They think it's safer. Don't think it's as dangerous. Seems safer. The myth is it's safer. Yep, easily accessible, easy access, less stigma. Yeah, that's true too. More easily available. Not seen as a drug. Yeah, it doesn't have that stigma to it so much. Absolutely. And so those are all really great answers, you guys. Know what it is. Yeah, they think it is safer because it comes from a doctor. They oftentimes, you know, don't realize the risk that they're taking when they're using these. And they see it as legal. Yes, that's a very good answer. They may see it as legal. It's more acceptable than what it would be to buy the illegal street drug. Awesome. Great job, you guys. Among teens, prescription drugs are the most commonly used drugs next to marijuana. And again, it's back to that ease of access. It's there, it's available, it's safer. You know, they just really have that access to it. The next one I found was almost half of the teens abusing prescription drugs are taking painkillers. Same reasons. It's easy, it's there, it's available. And by survey, 50% of teens believe that taking prescription drugs is much safer than using illegal drugs. Yep, So same thing that we've all been saying. Does anybody have any thoughts they want to put in the chat about that, or anything they'd like to add, or any questions about those facts? Anybody change any of their answers on their quizzes at this point? Is alcohol abused by teens more than marijuana? At this point, at least my experience, Catherine, I would say that they actually use more marijuana than they do alcohol. And again, it's more that ease of access than it is anything else. It's more acceptable amongst our adolescents too. They don't see marijuana as a bad thing. It's from the earth, it's clean, so they don't view it like that. But alcohol, at least with the teens I've talked to, often really are very opposed to, alcohol, stupid, you act dumb. They have some pretty strong feelings on it. Let's see. I'm going to back up just a little bit. Yep, there we go. Safer because the doctor has prescribed it. There's the perception that if something is from a doctor, it's okay. Illegal may not be as healthy. And that's a good point. Absolutely. I think there's a socioeconomic issue too. People who have insurance are more likely to take their kids to the doctor to get prescribed. That's a good point, Pete. You're right. They would be absolutely more likely to go to the doctor and get that prescription. So yeah, they would have more access to it. All right. So in the chat box, what are some reasons you guys think teens use? Why do they use? Peers, peer pressure, fit in, fun, stress, fit in, curiosity. Ooh, the chat box moves fast. To deal with trauma, experiment, psychological pain, escape the pain, mask sorrow, relieve anxiety. You guys have some great answers going. Hormones, pressure, stress. Yeah, Mary Jo, when you say peer pressure and stress, what do you mean, stress from peer pressure? Or stress/peer pressure? I'm bored, escape reality, boredom. Addiction will happen to them. Some really great answers coming in. The stress of classes, sports, other extracurriculars, getting into college, work. It's a lot of juggling. Absolutely. Yep. Agreed. 100%. For the people who raised their hands, if you want to put it in the chat right now, I can hold off for just a second so I can see what your question was or your comment. Oh, okay. That was an accidental hand raise, so not a problem. So let's see what we got up here. So for some teens, it's to feel good or to get high. So when they smoke marijuana, when they use the painkillers, they do feel good and it does take away the pain. And so oftentimes they do use it for that reason. Nice one, Pete. Yeah, not taught better coping skills at a younger age. Right. And it's a coping skill that works for them. So they use it to relax or relieve tension. I've seen that several times in the chat box. Some of them are using to reduce their appetite or increase their alertness. I hear a lot of times from teens, when I smoke marijuana, I'm really, really focused. I can really focus on one thing. And so they think that it gives them a better way to think, a better way to focus on their schoolwork, but they're not realizing that they're missing a lot of stuff around them. To experiment, some of them like, I just want to try it. It looks like fun. It sounds like fun. We know that teens like to, definitely like to use risky behaviors to try to, feel what the world's about, what things are happening. And so they may just be experimenting. Sometimes it's to maintain an addiction and prevent withdrawal. This is probably later adolescence for kids who had started using a little bit younger because, they try to quit and then it hurts, their bodies ache. They have those withdrawal symptoms. And so then they go back to using again. A lot of you said this, to be accepted by peers or to be social. So they definitely, if my peers are using, I probably am going to use because I want to fit in. I want to make sure that they like me. And for some teens, they feel like they're more social. Oh, if I have a beer, if I smoke the marijuana, if I take this pill, I can be more social and be more comfortable and more relaxed. To try and improve concentration and or academic performance. So for some kids, they may be using stimulants to do this more so than the opioids, but, because they got to stay up and they have to study and they have to make sure that, they get the best grades and they have to keep, trying to do those things. So any questions about that? Any reasons, any other reasons that I didn't hit that you guys think should be up there? Okay, then I'm going to move on. In the chat box, you guys, what are some signs and symptoms of teens that might be misusing? Sick, secrecy, mood changes, hygiene, withdrawal, performance in school declining, isolating, drop in school performance, bizarre behaviors, absolutely. Grades go down, not interested in former activities, different friends, lack of sleep, changing, sleeping all the time, stealing, lying, isolated. Yeah, these are great answers, you guys. Increased defiance, legal issues, skin changes. Very good. Yes. Skin and hair changes. I had no idea my kid was vaping and smoking. Saw no signs. Yeah, maybe no signs at all. Hygiene, poor, irritability. Yeah, those are really great answers, you guys. So some of them too can be medical. So they might, especially with the opioids, your child might be constipated. They might have nausea. They're feeling high, so they're acting silly. They're laughing, they're giggling, they're sleeping, slower breathing rates, drowsiness, confusion, poor coordination, increased dose required for more pain relief, worsening or increased sensitivity to pain with higher doses. Oh, I'm going to go back. Sorry about that. And all of the things that you guys said, and I'm just going to back up here a little bit in the chat box. So some of the underlying things that people had said was, they're sick, like they're feeling sick. They don't feel well. Secrecy, they're hiding things. Don't come in my room. Don't look in my stuff. Don't go in my book bag. Mood changes, so this is a kid who, and we know with adolescents, so keeping that in mind that they often have times that their mood swings or changes, but this is something where, Johnny's usually a pretty mellow kid. He usually kind of hangs out. You don't really see, and then all of a sudden he's very angry. He's not interacting like he used to. Just kind of leave me alone. Somebody said hygiene. Dennis said hygiene. We start to see they're not putting on their makeup anymore. They're not wearing, they don't care what they look like. They, oftentimes, they've stopped showering, those kinds of things. Withdrawn is another one. Performance in school declining. Almost always go hand in hand with misuse. Isolating, missing school in general, drop in school performance, school issues, more throughout bizarre behavior. So just things you can't account for. You're like, where is this coming from? What is this behavior? I've never seen this before. Not interested in former activities. So a kid who's in high school, maybe they played baseball all their life and they're like, oh, I love baseball. And they say, oh, you know what? I don't want to play baseball this year. I want to do track. But when we say not interested in former activities, so then they go, nope, I'm not playing baseball. I'm not playing track. I'm not doing anything. I'm just done. Amy said different friends. So suddenly they have a new group of friends that you're not, familiar with. losing weight, definitely, lack of sleep, too much sleep, illness, changes in behaviors, stealing, suddenly they need, there's money missing, there's things missing that they could have sold. Increased defiance from Beth. Thank you, Beth. Legal issues, skin changes. So we'll often see this may be a kid. And again, you guys, sometimes this is difficult because adolescents, they may have acne. They may, that just may be part of their makeup. But, when we talk about skin changes, I've seen kids who were, especially like with synthetic drugs, and they would start to get sores around their mouths. They would start having a lot of acne when they didn't have acne before. So those kinds of things. Somebody had said they had no idea that their child was using, and it happens. I mean, you may not know it. You may not see it. So these are all, yep, great answers, you guys. Bad case of the gonnas. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Is that what you mean by that, Pete? I think that's what he meant by that. Oh, yep, bad case. Yes, yeah, I'm gonna do this. I remember working a long time ago with someone and they said, I'm gonna, get pot legalized. I'm gonna go to Washington. And it was kind of like, as soon as you get off the couch, that might happen. So yeah, definitely a bad case of the gonnas. Any other comments about signs or symptoms? All right, so moving forward. So in the chat box, what are some risk factors that you think go along with kids that are using opioids? What are some of the risk factors? Abuse, neglect, parent usage, parents using, low SES, trauma, difficult family, lack of supervision, stress in the home, socioeconomic. You guys are right on top of this. I love it. Family history, trauma, genetics, complaining about soreness, SES, trauma and stress, high stress. Yeah, absolutely. ACEs. Nice. Caregivers that work. So no, Casey, do you mean that there's little supervision? Is that what you mean by that? Gotcha. Can be anyone. Nice, Colleen. Absolutely. It can be anyone. Parents always refer to taking something. Colleen, do you want to expand on that? On can be anyone? Impulsive. I was kind of waiting for Colleen to come back, but oh, there she is. A person can have married parents involved in their lives, coach their teams. Absolutely. You're right, Colleen. That I would agree 100%. And it could be, we're back to the kid who's, involved in sports and, takes a painkiller because, he broke his ankle or she broke her ankle. Yep, straight A students with college scholarships. You're right. I agree with you 100%. I think that sometimes it's hard to go, oh, how fast does addiction happen? Well, they say, within weeks that it really can happen that quickly. So making sure that, yeah, those straight A students, those, parents that are involved in their lives are really monitoring what's going on with those medications. So some of the risk factors that I have too are past or present addictions to other substances, including alcohol and tobacco. Yep. Even those who successfully navigate teens. Colleen, I'm right on board with you on those things. I agree with you 100%. Youth are more likely to misuse drugs if they're diagnosed with major depressive disorder. So why do you guys think that that's a reason? Why that particular diagnosis? Yep. Pain is depressing. Need an upper. Well, and pain is, so back to Amy's there, pain is depressing, but pain is also, it's painful, and it does cause you to become more depressed because you can't get moving, you can't do the things that you want to do. And so absolutely, self-medicating and not having to deal with the depression. Yep, numbing the emotional pain, serotonin levels. Absolutely. Great answers, you guys. Family history of substance abuse problems. You know, my mom smokes weed, my dad smokes weed, we all smoke weed. That's what we do. You know, my mom takes these painkillers, she seems better, I'm going to take these painkillers. So this family history really plays a role in a risk factor. Exposure to peer pressure, social environment where there's drug use. So again, you know, if everybody in the family is doing it, you know, they're possibly going to do it. If all my friends are doing it, I'm probably going to join into that. The easier access, and we talked about this earlier, was easier access to prescription drugs. So having them in the medicine cabinet, grandma keeps them right there, you know, mom keeps them right in this one spot. And it's just an easy access to that. Chaotic home environments, particularly in which parents abuse substances or suffer from mental illness. So we know this is a risk factor. And when we say chaotic homes, again, I agree with Colleen, it's not just chaotic homes, but we know that this is more of a risk factor. Lack of parent-child attachments and nurturing. So if I'm not attached to, if I'm not paying attention to what's going on in your life, that's definitely a risk factor. Inappropriately shy or aggressive behaviors in classrooms. So meaning these kids that really, you know, are struggling to come out. They're struggling to talk to people. They're struggling to control their behaviors. And they find this drug that goes, hey, this helps me control it. I'm going to keep using it. Poor social coping skills. You know, I just don't know how to manage things. Affiliations with peers displaying deviant behaviors, and I've already talked about that. And this perception of approval. So, you know, again, we're back to that, you know, if everyone else is doing it, I might do it too. So any questions, any more comments on risk factors? Oh, I had one more. I'm sorry. Lack of knowledge about prescription drugs and their potential harm. And we talked about that earlier, you know, that kids view them as safe. They think because they're prescribed by a doctor that it's okay. And they don't see that there's a problem with that. So back to the chat box. How about some protective factors? What are some things that protect our kids from addiction? What are some things that help protect them? Talking about it. Open, healthy communication, strong social supports, information, positive peer, education, love it. Good coping skills, more education. Good role models, coping skills, strong family units, good social connections, positive feedback, awareness, nice, nurturing. Yeah, those are all really great protective factors. Caring adults, people who are in their lives, doesn't have to be just parents, it can be other people's parents. It could be teachers, coaches, developmentally appropriate expectations, communication, anti-inflammatory diets. Oh, that's a good one, Evan. Exercise, discipline, social connections. Nice. Understanding triggers and positive. You guys got this. I love this. No use in the home, right? They do what they see. Absolutely. It's really hard to say, son, don't smoke marijuana while I'm doing it over here. It can be really challenging to say that. So some of the protective factors that I had were strong and positive family bonds. So, you know, making sure that we're connected as a family. Parental monitoring of children's activities and peers. So really knowing who your kids are hanging out with, knowing their parents. Hey, I'm going to Susie's. Okay, well, I'm going to give Susie's mom a call because I know her and I know her number and I want to make sure that that's what's going on. So making sure you're monitoring all that. Clear rules of conduct that are consistently enforced within the family. So making sure that those rules are clear. So whether you're a parent on the seminar or you're a clinician, helping people to come up with those clear rules, like what are the expectations of our family? What do we expect? And what are the consequences or what are the rewards for following that? Involvement of parents in the lives of their children. So being involved, get in there, be that team parent, hang out with them. And some of us, we don't always have that kind of time to do all that, but knowing where your kids are and who they're involved with, those are always really good protective factors. Success in school performance, that's a protective factor. Strong bonds with institutions such as school and religious organizations. So we want to make sure that there are some strong connections. One of the things I love about doing extra things at school, like, being in the sport, being in drama, being in band, is that you have a reason to go to school other than just going to school. You have an investment. And so it really helps our kids sometimes to have those things. Adoption of conventional norms about drug use. So, what is acceptable and what's not acceptable. Oops, let me go back one. I just want to read what's in the chat box really quick. Debbie Dowder here, but this was all done with my child. Yeah, you know what, Amy, I hear what you're saying. I mean, because I think sometimes it does just happen, that there's not, you had it all set up and it's there. And, sometimes our kids make choices that we can't always control, even though we've done everything, exactly the way we said is going to work. So that can be difficult. Some of the consequences of teen misuse is that they're more likely to be diagnosed as an adult with a substance use disorder. If you start using when you're an adolescent, you are more likely to have a substance use disorder as an adult. I always know it, when I've talked with kids, oh, that's never going to happen to me. I'm not going to become an alcoholic. I'm not going to become a drug addict. Nobody plans to do that. Nobody sets out to do that. But it does happen. Pete had said this much earlier about coping skills. I've seen this several times, but the younger a person starts to use, the less coping skills they're able to develop. What happens is they go, oh, this works. So why would I learn to do anything else? If I know that I smoke marijuana and I feel better, if I know that I take opioids and I feel better, why would I learn to do anything else? That other stuff is work. It's hard. It's tough. This is really easy. And they don't realize the danger or where that may lead in later life. Some of the other consequences is they engage in risky behaviors because of poor judgment. They're using drugs and they really can't make the best decisions when they're high. Consequences are continuing to use illegal or recreational drugs, being involved in crime. Somebody had said that earlier about stealing. They're stealing to provide for their habit. Obviously, motor vehicle accidents, decreased academic or work performance, troubled relationships. Anybody want to add to that? The consequences, medical complications. Thank you, Courtney. Yeah, a lot of stomach issues. Absolutely. Death. Yeah, that is definitely a consequence. Thank you, Kim. Any other consequences people want to add that didn't end up on that list? Jail. Yeah. All right. So one of the best tools that I can tell you for parents or for clinicians is teaching people to communicate, teaching people how to share their feelings, how to manage difficult situations, ways to voice things to be heard. So one of the things that I always recommend is being open to discussing the costs and the benefits of drug use. And when I say that, I'm not saying that drugs are good. I'm saying that teens often see the benefits in using them. I feel better. I can focus more. I hang out with my friends. But understanding that they see those benefits, but there's also cost to that. I might be on probation. I might lose my driver's license. I might lose some really good friends. I might not get into college. But being open to having that conversation and not just shutting it down like, oh, well, oh, it makes you feel good. You know, you really want to make sure that you have those conversations openly and honestly with your kids. And clinicians can really help with that by using charts that have cost and benefits of behaviors so that they can work with parents and teens on that. It's a really good tool to have a visual because we know as adults, we know the cost outweigh the benefits. So having them understand that is a really good tool to use on paper. Be open to using problem solving techniques. And I'm going to go into that a little bit more in the next slide. But really being open to saying, hey, I'm really willing to work with you. How can we solve this together? Communicating your own beliefs openly and honestly. You know, we do not, in this house, we do not believe in smoking marijuana. You know, this is how I feel, and we expect you to follow that rule. But being really open and honest about it, about why you don't believe in that. Start talking early and often. When I was raising my kids, one of the things I really used to love was using moments on TV. I remember when one of my children were growing up and they'd be watching, you know, the Jersey Shore or, you know, Teen Mom. And I'd be like, oh, let's talk about what just happened. Let's talk about that and have that conversation. So using those teaching moments and doing it early and often. If you're a parent, getting involved in your child's life, again, like I said earlier, making sure that, you know, you are there and who are they hanging out with and how does that work? Making clear rules and consequences. Being a positive role model. I've seen that come up a lot, you know, making sure that you're, for lack of a better term, walking the walk or talking the talk and walking the walk and making sure that you're being upstanding and you're doing what, you know, what is expected so that they can see that. Monitoring your child's behavior. Again, I've said that a few times. Using I messages. So making sure that blame is out of there, because a lot of times when kids are using, they feel guilty, they feel bad. And so, you know, using the I messages instead, making sure that you are able to communicate that, you know, I've noticed that your grades are starting to dip a little bit, and I'm concerned about your future. I'm concerned about school. I've noticed that you've been sleeping a lot, and I'm concerned. It's a real easy message to send across and to help kids so that there's not that blame. There's not that, you know, oh, you. It's I've noticed and I'm concerned. So using those kind of messages. And listen, you know, hear what they have to say. You know, even if it frustrates you, even if you're, you know, if it makes you angry what their opinion is, try and really listen to what they're saying and hear what they're trying to tell you. I seen somebody raise their hand. Do you want to type in the chat box? Okay, maybe that was an accident. So anybody have any other ideas for communication? Anything that you have used personally, anything that works, anything that you would suggest for anybody? Okay, then I'm going to move on. And humor is the last one. Keep your sense of humor. You know, try to make sure that you know, can laugh with them and still have fun. Oh, I see some coming in. Okay. Share with them a family history of addiction they may not know about. Great one, Anne-Marie. Yeah, because if they don't know, if we, you know, we often have families that keep everything, you know, hush hush and let's not talk about what, you know, happened with grandma. It might really help them to understand that they're at risk for that. Offer to drive teen and friends. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they talk in the car a lot, Colleen. That's an awesome suggestion. You learn a lot in the car with teenagers, I would say 100%. So when using problem solving skills, and I really like this format for helping kids to problem solve and opening up that communication. Defining the problem is the first step. Narrowing it down to the real problem. A lot of times we hear kids go, oh, the problem is that my probation officer is stupid and, they don't, whatever. I just want off probation. Okay, so how do you narrow that down? So is the real problem the probation officer is stupid, or is the real problem that the child's not following the rules and they're not, following what's going on? So you oftentimes, you really have to break that problem down. So what is the real problem? Is the problem, oh my gosh, my mom just nags me all the time to do the dishes? Well, is the problem that mom's nagging, or is the problem that the dishes aren't getting done? So really boiling it down to what the real problem is. And then brainstorming. I love this part of problem solving. So when you brainstorm, everything is on the table. And I've worked with kids for a long time, and I love whiteboards and markers and brainstorming. And I mean, I'll let them put anything up. I had one time we were doing a dish one, and the kid was like, well, we'll throw the dishes away. I'm like, that's great. We'll put it up on the board, and they're like, well, you can't throw the dishes away. I'm like, we'll put it up on the board anyway. So allowing them to have anything up there as a solution. But then you go and eliminate those things that will not work, and you have them go up and cross it out. Okay, why won't that work? Right, because you can't punch your probation officer in the face. You can't do these different things. So cross out what doesn't work, and then have 2 or 3 things that might work. What are potential solutions? And then really boil it down to one. What is it that they want? And then figure out what are the barriers. What's going to get in the way of that solution? So how, they might say, well, gosh, I really want to get off probation. I'm going to stop smoking weed so I get off probation. And then you want to make sure that they have, like, what are the barriers to that though? What are the barriers? Well, when I hang around with my friends, I like to do it. And so you got to figure out, how they can get around those barriers and what it'll look like so that they can still be successful. Talk about each barrier, find the ways, I just said that. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. And then select a final solution. So, okay, this is what we're going to try. This is what we're going to do. And then come back and evaluate it. And guess what? It may not have worked. And you might have to start back at the brainstorming or go back to eliminating things. But really having a kid involved in this problem solving process opens up those communication. It really helps them to, have some talking about how we can fix these things instead of using drugs, instead of using opioids, instead of, doing things that harm us. Anybody have any questions? I know we're down to just a few minutes left. Going back to, okay, I'm reading something in the chat, to creating a cost benefit. How do you talk with kids that do use when they say excuses such as, I know how this makes me feel or what the benefit is, but the costs are only possibilities and will only happen if they get caught? So Casey, that's a big question. And so, and I get what you're saying, because sometimes they're like, yeah, I'm not going to get caught. I'm not, and so you really have to just kind of keep working through that of like, and really listening. It's back to that listening piece, because there's going to be some cost to that child, whether it's a health cost, a financial cost, a school cost, all those different things. So there's something, and if you can hone in on something that they end up picking up on, that's the best route to try and, meet them where they're at. Again, that's a whole nother training on stages of change. But Casey, if you want to talk to me sometime, I have some training stuff I can give you on that. Who can you trust again? Does that come back? I'm sorry, Amy, I'm not understanding the question. When can you? I'm going to come back to that question, Amy. I'm sorry, because I'm not understanding what you're asking me at this point. Oh, trust them. Trust the teenagers if they say they stopped. Yeah, well, I mean, as a parent, that's really, I think that's individualized for each kid and how you, because eventually you're going to have to give them a little more freedom, give them, I mean, you can't keep them in lockdown forever. And so how you choose to do that as a parent can look different for everybody. And I would say, I mean, giving small amounts of trust, and allowing some independence and keep giving a little bit at a time. That would be my best suggestion. And Amy, if you'd like to talk about that too, I'd be glad to have that conversation with you at some time. So absolutely. I'm going to move forward just because we got like 3 minutes left. Answers. Let me ask this question in the chat. Did you guys get a quiz before the training?
So the quiz link was sent in the same email as their Zoom link, but it can also be accessed on our website too. So if you go to the CMH website, stccmh.org, find the opioid series, scroll down to whatever session you're looking for, you can find the link to the quiz, the survey, and your PowerPoints today.
Thank you. So, any quick questions to follow up with? Oh. All right. Well, if you have no more questions, then I am all set. Thank you so much for being here today, you guys. I appreciate it. Sorry about the videos. Again, in my references on the PowerPoint, the last 2 pages of my references, you guys are welcome to go visit any of those, but that drugfreeworld.org is there. So enjoy.